Hey guys, and today we're going to be doing a used and new iPhone buying guide. So this is going to be which iPhones should you buy currently as of July 2020. Now, each iPhone has different traits, problems, and features about it, so I'll try to cover as much information about each phone as I possibly can, while also keeping the video fairly short. We'll go from iPhone 5S and up, all the way to the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Quick disclaimer though, I do want to say if you're buying any iPhone used, make sure you check what the battery health is on it. You don't want to end up with a phone with a crappy battery like what happened to me with my iPhone 5C. But first we'll start with the iPhone 5S. Launched back in 2013, this phone can be bought pretty cheap nowadays, and honestly it's quite good. While the phone definitely isn't the fastest thing in the world, it can perform pretty much any task you throw at it. Again, it won't be the fastest, but it'll work for pretty much everything you need it to. It could be a good backup phone or just a cheap phone for someone who's looking for one on a budget. Everything on the phone is currently still supported as it runs iOS 12 right now, which is only 1 year out of date. Will be too soon, but still, Apple keeps their support up for over 2 iOSs out of date. If you can get past the small 4-inch screen and the subpar battery life on this phone, it could be a good cheap phone or backup. Next we have Apple's 2014 iPhone 6. This phone is quite a bit more expensive than the iPhone 5S, and by that I don't mean a ton, but I mean enough to be noticeable. However, for that you get a larger 4.7 or 5.5 inch display, and you get a different design that's more rounded and looks more modern. However, I wouldn't recommend you go pick up one of these. It runs iOS 12 just like the iPhone 5S does, but it runs a slightly newer CPU, which means it's slightly better performance. However, the reason I wouldn't recommend you pick this up is because these have a lot of problems. iPhone 6s had the whole bend gate issue. There's been issues with the baseband on these, the screens. There's been a ton of problems with the iPhone 6, so I wouldn't recommend you pick it up because it's not going to be very reliable. Again, it does have better battery life as well as a better screen than the 5S, but I wouldn't recommend you pick it up. If you're going to go for this form factor, I'd go for a 6S. It's not a ton more expensive, but will definitely be worth it in the long run, trust me. Next we have Apple's 2015 iPhone 6S. This phone is much better than the iPhone 6. It's more durable on the front and back because it has the stronger aluminum and the stronger glass. It runs 2 gigabytes of RAM as well as the Apple A9 processor, which means it's going to be much faster, and it's still supported. So it runs iOS 13.5.1 right now. However, it will be getting the iOS 14 update, which means that this phone will be supported until 2023 with apps. That's pretty incredible for a phone that's already running 5 years old. And because it's 5 years old, it's pretty cheap too. Not saying it's super cheap, however, it's going to be much less expensive than an iPhone 7 or 8. This is a strong buy, and we highly recommend you get one of these. Aside from the battery life issues that some of these have, which can be negated just by buying one that has a replaced battery or good battery health, this phone is a really good buy. Next we have Apple's first iPhone SE. I'm going to sum this one up pretty quickly. If you like the 6S and you can handle a 4-inch screen, which will come with a cheaper price tag of course, as well as worse battery life, honestly I don't really see any reason not to buy it. Again, I'd recommend going for a 6S if you want a bigger screen or a 6S Plus, but honestly there's no reason not to buy the first SE. It's going to be a lot cheaper and it's not a bad phone. Now the iPhone 7. I'm going to sum this one up in 4 words. Just buy a 6S. Trust me, just buy a 6S. Don't spend the money to get this. It's not worth it. Next we have the iPhone 8. It's almost as if everybody just forgot about this phone when the new SE was released, but there's no reason to forget about this phone. It's still really up to date. The phone runs an A11 CPU, which is only 2 years old, and it's not too bad. The phone has really good performance. It still has pretty good battery life, assuming you get one with a good battery, especially the 8 Plus. The 8 Plus is a really good phone, and I'd highly recommend you buy one if you can get one. However, the regular 8 is no slouch either. They both run the Apple A11, 2 or 3 gigabytes of RAM, depending on which variant you get, and the base storage of 64 gigabytes. So the phone still will offer the same amount of storage that the brand new SE does. It still has the same design and pretty much the same camera, screen, and home button that the iPhone SE 2 has. Why would you not buy the iPhone 8? It's a lot cheaper. If you can go and snipe one on eBay for a good price, I'd highly recommend it. The iPhone X, the most deceiving phone on our list today. Why do I say it's deceiving? Well, because when you look at it, that design looks like buy me now. But you shouldn't. The iPhone X is a great phone, don't get me wrong. It's just as great as the iPhone 8 Plus, which is cheaper. The iPhone 8 Plus is still a really solid phone and is much cheaper. I just checked on eBay and there's one of these going for $380, getting sniped up right away because people want to buy these. These are in high demand right now. People are trying to get them as cheap as possible. The 8 Plus is much less popular, and you have much better chance of getting one of those used than you do an iPhone X. Honestly, I recommend you go for the 8 Plus. Sure, you don't get the OLED screen, but you still get an incredible phone. You get the dual cameras, you get a really nice 1080p screen still, which is better than, some phones. And you get a really good design. It's not this, but it's still a very good phone. So therefore, I can't recommend you buy an iPhone X. The XS, or XS Max, I suppose too. Trying to buy one of these new, don't even try. They still cost $800 to $900, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yes, they still do for a 2-year-old phone. We're still charging that much money. Buying them used is a better deal. However, again, just really expensive, and I don't see any reason to buy these. I think you should go for something like an 8 Plus. I think for most people who are buying used iPhones, they don't need this incredible fancy design and all that, and I'd recommend you go for an 8 Plus for that reason. It's going to be a lot cheaper, and it'll still provide a very good phone experience. Or even the XR. However, do not buy an XR brand new, and I'll talk about that in just a second here. Now on to the iPhone XR. Would I recommend you buy one of these brand new? No, do not. Used is a different story, but Apple still thinks they can charge $600 for a 2-year-old hardware that only costs $750 brand new? Yeah, I don't think so. However, if you want to buy one of these used, that's a different story. Really good design, great build quality, a great processor, A12 processor, 3 gigabytes of RAM, and honestly, it's just an incredible phone all around. You get all the features of the brand new phones, other than the cameras, at a really good price. So buying one used, I can see totally justified, and I definitely think you should consider it if you're looking for this type of device. It's a good 6.1 inch screen. Resolution could use some help, but otherwise it's a pretty good screen, and the battery life on these is incredible. Trust me, battery life is amazing. Before we go on to the 11 and the 11 Pros, I'd like to talk about the best value currently in iPhones. Brand new. The SE2. The SE2 currently costs $400, which is an incredible value considering how much phone you get here. It's based off the iPhone 8 and shares a lot of traits with the iPhone 8. However, they've upgraded the important stuff. The camera, the processor, as well as the RAM. It now runs with 3 gigabytes of RAM and an Apple A13, which is the processor from the $1,100 iPhone 11 Pro, but it's running in a $400 phone. It's pretty incredible value if you think about it. So I'd highly recommend you pick one of these up. Unless you're the heavy power user that needs the 11 or the 11 Pros, honestly, there's no reason not to buy this. This is the phone I think most people should buy. The iPhone 11. It's basically the iPhone 11 Pro, but it's $700 versus the $1,000. You get most of the iPhone experience for that. You still get the same crappy screen from the iPhone XR, but what can you do? The iPhone 11 is still quite a good phone. However, by this point, I recommend you wait till what comes out next year. By that point, the iPhone 11 will have dropped in price and might be worth it for the right person. However, I'd still recommend going for whatever comes out this year, especially the cheaper version of the iPhone 12, the 5.4 inch screen. I think that's going to be another good value. Plus, it probably won't be ugly like this phone. And here we arrive at the $1,000 and $1,100 iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. These are great phones and they've had a great run. However, if you're looking at buying one right now, I'd recommend you just go ahead and wait a little bit. Patience is a virtue, and by pattern, we'll have noticed that Apple will have released something really cool that you could miss out on if you don't wait for it. If you're thinking about buying a Pro or even a regular 11 right now, just hold on a minute and don't buy one yet, because Apple could unveil something that could be totally worth waiting for. Well, hey guys, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I honestly really appreciate it. This was quite a long one, and I'm glad that you guys watched all the way until the end. Honestly, a sub to the channel would be really great, as well as a like, and maybe drop a comment down below. We also gotta thank our sponsor, just kidding. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and as always, peace out. I'm APR2K Productions.